There's a moment, often late at night, when the pain returns. The betrayal, the lies, the humiliation. Maybe they spread rumors. Maybe they used your kindness as a weakness. Maybe they walked away like you were disposable. And there you were, left holding the pieces, trying to make sense of something that was never meant to be fair. Let me ask you something raw and real. What if I told you that you don't have to scream to be heard? That you don't have to seek revenge to restore justice? That the most devastating response to those who hurt you is your evolution? I want to tell you a story. Years ago, there was a young man, driven, hopeful, talented, but naive. He believed that loyalty meant protection. He believed people who clapped were rooting for him. He was wrong. They clapped because he entertained them. And when he stopped giving them what they wanted, they turned. He was mocked, abandoned, ridiculed. And he said nothing. He just worked. He stayed silent. He didn't chase explanations or demand apologies. He outgrew them. And years later, the same people who once wounded him watched him from afar, stunned by his rise. What destroyed them? His success, his silence, his refusal to break. This speech is not about revenge in the way you've been taught. It's about choosing a smarter way, a way that makes your silence scream louder than words, a way that transforms your pain into your greatest weapon without lowering your character. Because the truth is, the smartest way to destroy those who hurt you is to become someone they never imagined you could be, and never even tell them you did. So let's walk that road together now. There's a fire inside every person who's ever been wronged. A burn that pulses in the chest, tightens the jaw, makes the hands shake. It's not just emotional, it's physiological. The nervous system lights up with ancient code: strike back, protect, survive. Retaliation feels like justice. It feels like reclaiming power. But what if I told you the real power? The kind that lasts, the kind that transforms you from victim to victor, comes not from reacting, but from refusing to. Rising without retaliation isn't passive. It isn't weakness. It's not being a doormat or suppressing rage. It's deliberate. It's restraint with intention. It's the clarity to see that every time you react, you stay in their story. You keep the wound open. You validate their importance in your life. And in doing so, you give them exactly what they wanted all along: your energy. The world will tell you to clap back, to expose them, to match insult with insult, lie with truth, injury with vengeance. But ask yourself this: who are you becoming in the process? If you have to lower your integrity, distort your peace, or center your world around someone who tried to harm you, what have you actually won? You don't win by playing the same game. You win by changing the game entirely. Imagine a person who betrayed you, a former friend, a toxic partner, someone who slandered you or stole from you. They expect the reaction. They expect chaos, because when you fight back, you stay tangled in their web. You're still tied to them emotionally. But when you rise, when you stop playing, when you put your focus into healing, building, moving, that silence is deafening. There's a young man I once mentored. We'll call him Elias. He was betrayed by people he considered family. Business partners who took his idea, locked him out, left him with nothing. He wanted to sue, expose, ruin them. And truthfully, he had the ammunition to do it. But I asked him, what's the outcome you really want? Revenge or resurrection? He paused. And then he got to work. He started over, brick by brick, quietly. No announcements, no social media drama, no shade posts. He just built, learned, networked with new allies. And in time, he surpassed his former partners in success, respect, and peace. Years later, they tried to reconnect. He didn't even respond, because he was too far above it now. The altitude of his growth no longer allowed him to descend into their world. And the beauty of it was, they destroyed themselves by underestimating him. Rising without retaliation is about protecting your energy from people who don't deserve to be in your mental real estate. It's about choosing legacy over ego. It's about mastering the art of discipline when you have every right to destroy, but instead you evolve. It's choosing to let your results speak for you, because nothing silences noise like undeniable success. Nothing unsettles your enemies more than realizing they didn't break you. They built the strongest, clearest version of you. And make no mistake, this isn't about pretending to be unbothered. It's about doing the internal work to actually be unbothered. It's about transmuting pain into growth. It's about waking up one morning and realizing you haven't thought about them in weeks. And smiling, because that, in itself, is the victory. Some people will never apologize. Some people will never admit their betrayal. Some people will never feel remorse. But none of that is your responsibility. Your responsibility is to become someone so strong, so clear, so powerful, that their presence in your story becomes a footnote, not a chapter. Rise without retaliation. because when you do, the air gets cleaner, the vision gets sharper, and you begin to move, not just forward, but upward. Let the silence carry the weight of your transformation. Let your evolution be the echo that haunts their memory. And let your peace be the loudest thing they never expected. There's something sacred about the quiet moments, the ones where no one's watching, when the applause has faded, when the betrayal still echoes in your chest and the world has moved on without you. That's where the real healing begins. Not in loud declarations or performative strength, but in the silence where your soul does the heavy lifting. When someone wounds you deeply, whether it's through betrayal, abandonment, humiliation, or manipulation, your first instinct might be to explain yourself to the world, to make your pain visible, to let everyone know what they did, how it hurt, and why you deserve justice. That's human. That's understandable. But the truth is, healing that's broadcast often becomes a performance. And performances don't heal you. They distract you. There is power, immense, transformative power, in disappearing for a while, in choosing not to argue, not to retaliate, not to seek public validation for your pain. It's the moment when you stop needing the world to understand and you start understanding yourself. That's where the shift happens. Healing in private is not about hiding. It's about creating a safe internal space where your growth isn't dependent on anyone's reaction. It's about stepping into the shadows not to vanish, but to gather your strength so you can return brighter. Think of it like a cocoon, not weakness, but transformation in motion. There was a woman I once spoke to, brilliant, successful, full of warmth. Her husband had left her suddenly, and the story was twisted to make her the villain. Her name was dragged through social media. Friends picked sides. People whispered, and she said nothing. She deleted her accounts, moved cities, enrolled in therapy, started hiking at sunrise, began rebuilding her inner foundation piece by piece. Every day was war, but no one knew it. No one saw the nights she broke down on the floor. No one saw the moments she questioned her worth. But she kept going. 18 months later, she opened her own wellness studio, her dream. It took off. She became a symbol of strength and clarity to others. The same people who whispered about her now wanted to collaborate. That wasn't an accident. That was what happens when you heal in private and then win in public. Because winning isn't just success, it's peace. It's presence. It's the glow people can't quite describe, but deeply feel. When you heal without needing the world's validation, you become rooted in something far deeper than approval. You become unshakable. And here's the most powerful part when you come back. Not for revenge, not for attention, but just to live fully. They'll know. They'll know what they did. They'll know what you overcame. And they'll know you never needed to speak on it to prove it. Your silence during the storm becomes the roar after it. Your healing becomes a weapon, not because it harms, but because it disarms. No one can fight someone who's not fighting. No one can shame someone who refuses to carry that shame. No one can manipulate someone who has found their center again. When you heal in private, you take control back from the chaos. You build strength that no one can see, but everyone eventually feels. And when you win in public, not by gloating, but by simply thriving, it forces every lie, every betrayal, every insult to collapse under the weight of your truth. So don't rush to tell your side. Don't post about the process. Don't seek sympathy. Seek wholeness. Let your healing be your secret power. Let your comeback speak louder than their gossip ever could, because the world may not know what you went through, but they will know who you've become. Pain is often seen as the enemy. Something to avoid, suppress, or escape. We medicate it. We numb it with distractions. We hide it behind smiles, behind jokes, behind filters and stories. But the truth is, pain is one of the most powerful forces on earth. If you know how to use it, it can burn you to ashes, yes, but it can also refine you, forge you, carve a strength into your soul that no comfort ever could. Pain, when processed, becomes the raw material for greatness. Think about it. Every person you admire, every leader, artist, athlete, visionary, was built in part through pain. They didn't get there by avoiding it. They leaned into it. They learned to hold it in their hands, study it, transform it into something meaningful. The difference between people who grow and people who crumble isn't whether they've been hurt. It's what they do with the hurt. Pain will visit you. That's a promise. People will betray you, mock you, overlook you. Life will throw you into dark places you didn't choose. But in those places, if you're brave enough to feel every inch of it and not run, something new begins to grow. There's a young man I once worked with. We'll call him Jonah. He grew up in a house filled with chaos. An alcoholic father. A mother who tried, but couldn't save him from the storms. By 16, he was angry. Violent. Kicked out of school, no one expected him to become anything. And honestly, he didn't expect it either. But one day, something cracked. He looked around and realized, I'm becoming everything I hated. That realization hurt. But he didn't ignore it. He didn't numb it. He sat in it. And instead of letting that pain destroy him, he started using it. He began journaling, writing about the chaos, the rage, the confusion. He started training his body, lifting not just to build muscle, but to create discipline. He took that fire, and instead of letting it burn him alive, he aimed it like a weapon. Years later, Jonah became a youth mentor. He now works with young boys from similar backgrounds, teaching them how to use their pain, not be consumed by it. His story, his suffering, his survival, it became his platform, his purpose. That's what using pain as raw material looks like. It's not about forgetting, it's about building with it. You take the broken bricks they threw at you, and you construct a fortress out of them. Even neuroscience supports this. When we reflect deeply on painful events, without distraction, without denial, our brain begins to rewire. We gain perspective. Emotional resilience. We start to find meaning. That's neuroplasticity in action. You're not doomed by what happened. Your brain, your mind, your life, they are moldable. But only if you're willing to touch the flame and not flinch. You see, pain gives you something that pleasure never can: depth, wisdom, empathy, fire. When you use pain as material, you no longer walk around hoping life doesn't hit you. You start welcoming challenge. You stop fearing hardship because you know whatever comes, you can turn it into strength. So take a breath and ask yourself, what did the pain teach you? What strength did it unlock? What clarity did it bring? And more importantly, what can you build with it? You don't have to romanticize your suffering, but you do have to respect it. It came with a message. And if you silence it, you'll miss the blueprint hidden inside. Let them laugh. Let them doubt. Let them say you're broken. Because someday, when you're standing on the platform built from every scar they gave you, they'll fall silent. Not because you destroyed them, but because you built something so powerful, so real, so grounded that your pain no longer looks like weakness. It looks like art. It looks like power. It looks like purpose. There is a unique kind of vengeance that doesn't scream or threaten. It doesn't try to get even. It simply rises, quietly, steadily, unshakably, until it becomes a force too powerful to ignore. That is the kind of life you build not to prove them wrong, but to prove yourself right. The kind of life that, when they finally look your way again, leaves them breathless with regret. Not because you told them off, but because you became someone they never thought you could be. When people hurt you, betray you, leave you, or laugh at your dreams, they do it with one thought in the back of their minds. You won't rise from this. They think they've got you figured out. They place limits on you, ceilings on your potential, locks on your future. They label you as emotional, broken, weak, lost. They expect you to spiral, to collapse, to fall apart in such a public way that it justifies their treatment of you. But what happens when you don't? What happens when, instead of falling, you rise? When, instead of proving them right, you make them eat their own words silently without ever saying a thing? That's not revenge. That's resurrection. To build a life that shames their expectations doesn't mean you become obsessed with them. It means you use their disbelief as a mirror, not to define you, but to remind you of who you're not. It means every insult becomes fuel. Every time they said you couldn't, wouldn't, or shouldn't becomes an invitation to become the kind of person who never needed their approval in the first place. The most powerful response to doubt is undeniable transformation. I remember a man, call him Mason, who was laughed out of his own family business. They called him naïve, said he didn't have what it took. He didn't argue. He didn't plead for a second chance. He just walked away. For 2 years, he said nothing. He worked jobs they mocked, learned skills in silence. He read, studied, rebuilt his network and his mind. Fast forward 3 years, Mason opened his own company, bigger, better, and built on everything they said he lacked. When they found out, they wanted to meet, not to apologize, but to benefit. He didn't lash out. He didn't gloat. He thanked them for forcing him to find his strength. That's the power of building a life so remarkable it silences every lie ever told about you. And it doesn't always mean becoming famous, rich, or powerful. Sometimes it means you live in peace. You heal completely. You find someone who truly values you. You create boundaries they never believed you were strong enough to enforce. You glow from the inside out. You stop reacting. You stop chasing. You stop needing. Because when people expect you to crumble and you show up healed, whole, and grounded, they don't know what to do with that. Their blueprint for your destruction becomes irrelevant. Let their expectations rot. Let their judgment fade. Let them think you've vanished, because when you return, when you reintroduce yourself through your actions, through your aura, through your growth, they'll realize they never even knew who you were to begin with. And that's the point. The person they tried to bury was only the seed, and now you're the tree they cannot cut down. So, build the life, drink the water, lift the weight, study the book, start the business, write the story, take the trip, heal the wound, be so relentless in your growth that your existence alone humbles those who tried to limit it. Not with hate, not with revenge, not with exposure, just with presence. There's a kind of silence that's louder than any scream, a kind of stillness that rattles more than rage. It's the silence of someone who's healed, the calm of someone who's no longer caught in the chaos others tried to drag them into. That silence, that peace, it is the greatest punishment you can ever give to someone who wanted to break you. When people hurt you, they often don't just want to harm you once. They want to haunt you. They want to linger in your mind, sit at the edge of your thoughts, replay in your memories. That's how they win. Not just through the action they took, but by living on in your pain. They feed off your reaction, your anger, your tears, your obsession with what they did, your inability to let it go. Because if you're still hurting, they still matter. But peace says, you no longer live here. Peace is the eviction notice you serve to the ghosts of betrayal. Peace is what they never expected you to find without them. There's nothing more unsettling to someone who wanted to ruin you than your serenity. They hoped you'd collapse. They thought they were unforgettable. They thought they'd wreck your ability to love, to trust, to move forward. But when they look again and see you centered, smiling, unaffected, it stings deeper than any insult ever could. Peace is power. And it's the kind of power that cannot be bought or faked. It's not passive. It's not pretending nothing happened. Peace is forged in fire. It's what comes after the storms have raged inside you. After the nights you couldn't sleep, the days you had to fake strength, the tears you cried in private. Peace is the reward you earn for not becoming like them, for not retaliating, for choosing growth instead of destruction. There's a woman I knew, Alina, whose ex-husband cheated, lied, and humiliated her publicly. She had every reason to lash out, to expose him, to drag him through the dirt the way he did to her. But she didn't. Instead, she moved cities, started therapy, started a business, rebuilt her inner world. She didn't post about it. She didn't tell the world her side. She just lived. One day, years later, she bumped into him. He expected bitterness, a cold shoulder, a snide remark. But she smiled, calm, radiant, peaceful. She asked how he'd been, wished him well, and walked away. He stood there stunned. Not because she forgave him, but because she didn't need to be angry anymore. That's what peace does. It removes the weight from your shoulders and puts it back on theirs. It exposes what they lost. It shows them they no longer have influence over you. And that realization, that they are no longer in control of your emotions, that they can no longer trigger you, that they no longer occupy your spirit, that is torment for them, because people who live in chaos hate to see you free of it. Peace tells the world, I have nothing to prove, nothing to fix, nothing to avenge. And that posture, strong, soft, silent, shakes those who thrive on conflict. When you are peaceful, they have no ammunition. When you are peaceful, they have no narrative. When you are peaceful, you are powerful. So breathe. Let go of the war. Put down the sword. Walk out of the courtroom in your mind where you've been replaying every injustice, and instead build a life where your smile is real. Your sleep is deep. Your laughter is genuine. Your relationships are clean. Your heart is whole. That's the kind of life that punishes them without your effort. Because your peace is proof. Proof that they failed. Proof that you rose. Proof that they could hurt you, yes, but they could never define you. Success is often misunderstood. Most people think it's about having more money, more recognition, more applause, more followers, more validation. But true success, the kind that breaks chains, silences enemies, and rebuilds your soul, isn't about having more. It's about becoming more. It's not about catching up to those who hurt you. It's about leaving them so far behind that even their memory can't reach you anymore. That's transcendence. Transcendence isn't loud. It's not showy. It doesn't brag or compete. It's the quiet rise above everything that once tried to pull you under. It's the moment you stop chasing people, revenge, closure, explanations, and instead you start evolving into someone so grounded, so elevated, so peaceful and powerful that the old you would barely recognize you. To transcend is to win a war you no longer need to fight. The ones who tried to break you, silence you, humiliate you. They thought they were writing your ending. But transcendence is when you decide that they were just the preface, just the training ground, just the sandpaper that polished your edge. There's a man I remember, Devin, brilliant, creative, but underestimated his entire life. Teachers wrote him off. His father ridiculed him. His community whispered behind his back, and when he finally tried to launch a startup, he was mocked openly. Even the people he called friends secretly bet on his failure. He worked in silence, not to prove them wrong, but to prove himself right. He didn't post about his long nights. He didn't rant about betrayal. He built, he learned, he healed. He rewired his self-worth from the inside. And eventually the business didn't just succeed, it exploded. He gained wealth, yes, but more than that, he gained clarity, peace, purpose. Years later, those same people reached out, not to apologize, but to try and stand next to him again. And he wasn't bitter. He just wasn't available. Because transcendence means you've risen so far beyond their version of you that you no longer speak their language. You don't just succeed to impress them. You transcend to outgrow the need to impress anyone at all. And here's the truth that will set you free. The people who try to hurt you are already below you emotionally. That's why they strike. Because they feel powerless. They use harm to mask their own inadequacy. But when you react, when you chase, when you scream to be seen, you lower yourself to their level. Transcendence means you stop playing small games with small people. It means you stop obsessing over winning in their eyes and start focusing on alignment. Becoming the version of yourself that sleeps well, walks in purpose, breathes deeply, and radiates calm. You become someone they can't reach, not because you're hiding, but because you've risen to an altitude where their energy doesn't survive. And that, in itself, is the most brutal justice of all. Because they didn't expect you to outgrow the pain. They didn't expect you to be happy without them. They didn't expect your evolution to be silent, steady, and permanent. And now they have to live with the fact that their greatest insult became your greatest awakening. You want to destroy those who hurt you. Don't just succeed. Transcend. Go so far in your growth that they become irrelevant. Go so deep in your healing that you forget why you ever needed closure. Go so high in your purpose that their noise sounds like silence. That's the move. That's the power. That's the final chapter they never saw coming. You no longer need their apology. You no longer need their attention. You no longer need anything from them.